Hi, everyone. Logan Hertz here with Hazeltine LLC. We're going to continue responding to comments. Daniel Egan313 says, great discussion here. I love the practical, step by step, real world examples from basic to advanced use cases. Thank you for your comment, Daniel. Greatly appreciate it. So, this is on whole life success stories. We interviewed Tyler Willie and we talked about, again, real life examples of showing how this actually worked. And we had one more basic example. I don't use the word basic like it's as an insult, it's very helpful, but where Tyler's mom used her whole life policy to purchase a vehicle. And we showed how that was extremely helpful for her, how she used a policy loan to purchase the car. Meanwhile, her entire policy kept earning for her. From the dealer's perspective, she paid cash. So, of course, she got a great deal. And then she put as much of it on a credit card as she could. So, she got points for that. So, all in all, it was great. As long as you're going to make this purchase, make it in the most effective manner possible. We're not saying you're going to get positive arbitrage from borrowing against your policy or that you're going to get rich by taking out policy loans to buy cars. No, we're not saying that. We're saying as long as you're going to make a major consumer purchase like a vehicle, why not make it in the most efficient manner possible and in a way that puts you in full control? And then the other example was a more advanced use case of someone who used their whole life policy to purchase real estate, a real estate investment. I think it was actually a medical center that they purchased, and the benefits were tremendous. And we're showing this over a multiple year period and showing how it actually worked. That these are policies and examples where we're multiple years in and we're seeing tremendous benefits. So nothing hypothetical about it. It has actually worked. So we're proving that whole life insurance actually works for financing these various things, whether it be a relatively simple use case of just buying a major consumer purchase like a vehicle, like an appliance, a house, any kind of a thing that your average person might buy from time to time. And then also seeing it where you have a more advanced use case of a business making a major purchase. But in all these cases, you can increase your financial efficiency by purchasing it using a whole life insurance policy, where you, as the bank that financed that purchase from your policy, now benefit just like any other bank that finances any purchase whatsoever. So thanks for your comment, Daniel. Appreciate it. Daniel Egan313 comments on our Nelson Nash Institute video, and he says, you nailed it. In many respects, I think Nelson Nash was a genius. Unfortunately, his underwhelming skills as a writer and a poorly run institute will sadly, severely limit the impact of his legacy. Thanks, Daniel. I appreciate it. Yep, this is commenting on some of the things I said about the Nelson Nash Institute, which, of course, obviously, I'm a big fan of Nelson Nash since he discovered the infinite banking concept and promoted it. I'm a big fan of the Nelson Nash Institute insofar as they also promote the infinite banking concept. However, I think that they're doing it in the wrong way. And I spoke through that, my own personal experiences with the Nelson Nash Institute. I was actually a member of the Nelson Nash Institute, and you can look at the video to learn more about that. I don't want to go into too many details, but yeah, Nelson Nash wrote the book Becoming Your Own Banker, which is the classic book on infinite banking. I definitely recommend everyone read it, but we have to be honest in that it's not the best written book in the world. And the more experience I get and the more I see the misconceptions about the infinite banking concept that are out there, I realize that many of those misconceptions come from Nelson's own book. Not that he ever said them. As an example, Nelson Nash did not say, you're going to get rich buying cars. He didn't say that. But the examples he gives you in that book leaves you with that impression because it's poorly written and poorly laid out. It left me with that impression, and I was like, wait a minute, that cannot be right. It cannot be the case that you're making more money because you're buying more vehicles using your policy. Let me go back and reread that section. And I did. And I realized, okay, the reason why you end up with more wealth is because you paid more premiums into your policy. Therefore, it generated more income for you. Okay, that makes sense. But the way it's laid out in the book, it makes it seem as if the reason why you got richer in scenario B versus scenario A was because you bought more trucks. And again, you'd have to know the specific example I'm referring to in the book. I'm rambling on a bit here, but again, big fan of Nelson Nash. Obviously, a big fan of the infinite banking concept. That's what I do for a living. Big fan of the Nelson Nash Institute insofar as they promote the infinite banking concept and promote infinite banking agents. Definitely there's a need there. But I think we have to be honest about Nelson Nash. Let's not fall into hero worship. Nelson Nash was phenomenal in many ways, but he had his limitations too, as we all do, as we all do. And same thing with the Nelson Nash Institute. I agree with their mission 100%. But I think there's perhaps a better way to promote the infinite banking concept. But thanks for your comment, Daniel. Greatly appreciate it. On my financial malpractice Dave Ramsey edition, Dakota Dak 100 comments and says, hands down, you, sir, are the most competent person I've met who is not a life actuary regarding these products. Bravo to you, sir. You have done your homework. The true rate of return, once factoring in saved term premiums, portfolio smoothing, and liquidity, is closer to 6 to 7%. But life insurance also comes with tools for passing along a legacy, lawsuit protection, and tax benefits that are valuable and more difficult to quantify, but certainly adding to our theoretical rate of return. Thanks so much for the compliment. I greatly appreciate it. So, Dakota Dak is actually himself a life insurance actuary. I believe he's retired. So, I really appreciate the compliment. I think that means a lot coming from him. And with regard to the returns he's talking about, one of the things that we've tried to look at, and I'll probably do a video or analysis on this at some point, is what is the true total rate of return you're getting in whole life insurance? So I don't like that metric, rate of return, and I don't like how everyone's so obsessed with it because there's so many preconceived notions behind it that are wrong. The whole preconceived notion is I'm going to take my money, I'm going to give up control of my capital to someone else and park it in a vehicle like mutual funds or the stock market, as they say, or a retirement account where I have no control over it. I have no access, I have no liquidity, and I have no control over how it performs. But hopefully, the S&P 500 goes up at the 8 to 12% clip that everyone says it does, and then I benefit from that. Okay, but I'm more interested in cash flow. I don't care about rate of return. I'm more interested in cash flow. When you look at your personal economy and want to know how you're doing, you don't ask yourself, what rate of return did I get this month? No, you ask yourself, how much money do I have coming in and how much money do I have coming out every month? And the more I can increase the income coming in every month and decrease the expenses going out every month, the better my personal economy looks, just like a business, just like a business. But since everyone's obsessed with this rate of return metric, we can use it. And since everyone tries to compare the rate of return in whole life insurance to other things, which is not a fair comparison because whole life insurance is not an investment. But if we're going to do that, we have to make adjustments to get the true rate of return in whole life insurance. And when people talk about the rate of return in whole life insurance, what they're talking about is just being myopically focused on one element of your whole life insurance policy, which is the internal rate of return on the cash value of my policy. But cash value growth is just one of multiple benefits you get from whole life insurance. So, if we really want to get the true rate of return in whole life insurance, we've got to account for so many other things. There's the death benefit protection. So, because you have that death benefit protection, you don't need to pay for a term life insurance policy. There's a cost savings there. The growth in the cash value will be tax free. So, we've got to account for the tax benefits. There's creditor protection. The cash value in a life insurance policy is protected from creditors because it's inside of life insurance. It's a guaranteed asset. It's guaranteed to go up in value every year. There's the policy loan feature where we can borrow against the policy on a guaranteed basis with no repayment terms. Meanwhile, the policy keeps earning. So there are people who have done analysis around, okay, what is the true rate of returning in whole life insurance? All things considered, meaning what rate of return would I have to get in some other asset to match all the benefits I'm getting in whole life insurance? And you can never come up with a precise calculation. You have to make assumptions. How valuable is creditor protection to you? That probably depends on you. The wealthier you are, the more you probably place a value on that, right? How much are the tax benefits to you? The higher your income is, the more you probably value that. So it's always going to be assumptions based and somewhat subjective. But one group of people who did that analysis came up with a true rate of return in whole life insurance of 17%. meaning that in any other asset, if you wanted to try to mimic the benefits you're getting in whole life insurance, you'd have to get a rate of return equal to 17%. So that's something I'll probably look into. But thanks for your comment. Thanks for the compliment, Dakota Dak. I appreciate it. Jared Showers says this is great, and I'm not going to repeat the rest of what he said, which is it's fine. It's just I try not to use the holy name very much, even though this person is not using it in a bad way. It's just through reverence, I try not to use the holy name very often. But thank you for your comment. And then we had an exchange, and Jared Showers one says, "Absolutely, brother, gonna sub. Velocity Bank is brilliant. Just seems like common sense." Yeah, I agree, Jared. Thanks so much for your comment. I agree. I don't understand why there's so many objections to it and why so many people don't do it. It's yeah, I agree with you. Both strategies are fairly common sense if you're willing to take the time to actually examine them with an open mind and learn them, which it seems like our critics usually are not. And let me give some credit to our critics. Let me give them some credit. Most of the content out there on velocity banking and infinite banking does not do a good job of explaining it. Some of the content is downright a little bit scammy, quite frankly, right? Which doesn't mean anything negative about infinite banking or velocity banking per se. That's true of any financial strategy or any financial product. There are going to be people out there who present it in the wrong way or who use it to try and scam you. So I think what happens with a lot of our critics is they see some of that content, and that happens to be the first content they see around it. And so then they assume that's it. Infinite banking is this video that I saw, this 30-second video that I saw, this 5-minute video that I saw, which is terrible. And they don't have an open enough mind to realize, well, maybe that video just didn't explain it very well. And maybe I should do a little more investigation and determine what it actually is, rather than now assuming because I watched this 5-minute video, I'm now an expert and I can safely dismiss anyone who talks about it. Right. That's what I think some of them are doing. But I agree with you. It's just common sense. Thanks for your comment. Jane Marie 5450, again, out of reverence, I'm not going to repeat what is said here. Not that it's bad, but thank you for your comment. I appreciate it. Hasseltine LLC is a business, not a religious organization, but thank you for your comment. Okay, you choosing you says FSB does not tell you that you must also have a percentage of cash reserves that must be 2 months bank verified, as well as not have a DTI of more than 40% that will keep you from qualifying, and you will not get 90% LTV on your equity. This is not easy to get, and it takes them 2 months to get back with you, even with a 700 score. It would have been easier and faster and less frustrating to get a regular HELOC from a local bank and chunk onto my mortgage. Thanks for your comment, you choosing you. I appreciate it. This was responding to my video on combining first lien HELOC and infinite banking with velocity banking, part 3. This was talking with Anthony Rushing. Yeah, thanks for your comment. I think you're proving my point about why you should work with an ambassador. If you want to do velocity banking, if you want to get a first lien HELOC, there's a reason why they have the ambassador program. They really don't want you going directly to the bank. If you had gone through me or through an ambassador, you would not have had any of these problems. And it also proves the point of why we don't typically share specific information, because specific information is specific. It doesn't apply in every scenario. Obviously, when we're posting a YouTube video, it's intended to apply to everybody. So you say you will not get a 90% LTV on your equity. Yeah, that just shows why we don't like sharing specific information. At one point, they did give you 90% loan to value on your primary residence. They do not anymore. It's now 85%. At one point in the past, you could get a fixed interest rate on your first lien HELOC, fixed for 5 years. They don't allow that anymore. So good for you if you got a 5% fixed rate when rates were very low. This is not easy to get. Yeah, that's what we say. We explain it's not easy to get. So again, I think you're just proving true two of the points that we emphasize, which is number one, you need to work through an ambassador. Don't go to the bank. Don't do it on your own. And number two, it's not a good idea for us to be sharing super specific information on our videos. We're instead trying to introduce you to the strategy, and maybe we'll give some examples, But the more specific and detailed the information gets, the less helpful it is, the more confusing it is, the more misleading it is. And DeAndre Clayton and I did another video talking about this. But thanks for your comment. I appreciate it. Let us know if you're. It sounds like you're. Are you? Did you end up getting the first lien HELOC? Are you doing velocity banking? I'd like to hear what's going on with you. Thank you so much. Daniel Egan 313 comments again and says, "This is such an important topic. This video needs 1,000 plus views. I suggest bringing Peter back for a conversation specifically to educate grandparents on the benefits of leaving whole life for their grandchildren." Thank you for your comment, Daniel. I greatly appreciate it. Of course, I 100% agree. This was commenting on our video, the video Peter Nelson and I did talking about life insurance on children and why it's so important to protect your child's insurability. And you can watch the video for more. And I agree, we need to have an episode on intergenerational legacy planning, what the Rockefellers do. And you don't need to be rich to do it, but you can ensure maximum financial efficiency. The longer your time horizon, the more strategic you can be with your assets. And if you can think across multiple generations, which I think parents and grandparents can, you can really have an impact on your legacy. And you can use whole life insurance on your children and grandchildren, and you can use a trust and to make sure that all your legacy is passed down in the most efficient, tax-free manner, and the trust will ensure that the assets are not squandered. And it's just a phenomenal thing that everybody should be doing, in my opinion. So thanks for your comment, Daniel. I appreciate it. Okay. User PY6 says he's commenting on my first lien HELOC explainer video. Says, so what you are saying is that you put all of your income in your bank account, pay all of your bills from same bank account, and the balance goes to pay off the loan, leaving nothing in your account. What happens if the month you pay taxes or insurance, you use all the money put in that month with nothing left for the loan payment because each month you're left with no money in the account? Thanks for your comment. It's pretty clear with respect. It's pretty clear you did not understand at all what I was saying. When you say leaving nothing in your account, no, all of your equity is available to you. So when you say leaving nothing in your account, no, it doesn't leave nothing in your account. That's the whole point. Every dollar you pay into the first lien HELOC, which will be every dollar of your income, is available to you. That's the whole point. If you dumped $100,000 into your mortgage, that is a problem because now you don't have access to that $100,000. If you dump $100,000 into your first lien HELOC, it pays down your HELOC balance by $100,000, but you can pull that 100,000 right back out if you want. So when you say leaving nothing in your account, no, you're not leaving nothing in your account. You're leaving everything in your account. That's the whole benefit. So yeah, all of that money is available to you. So you're right. If we were leaving nothing in the account, that would be a problem. So thanks for your comment, but clearly you did not understand the video at all. Maybe you should watch it again. Okay, Glenn Yaney, 9534, comments and says 100% on target. Thank you, Glenn. Greatly appreciated. I've had Glenn Yaney on my show. Glenn is a very successful real estate investor. He has a fund which invests in mobile home parks. He is doing infinite banking. He started doing velocity banking first, and then he discovered infinite banking, and now he's doing both, which is phenomenal. I do think that velocity banking in many ways can be the gateway drug for infinite banking. And he's commenting on our interview with an actuary. We interviewed Jack Alwile, who is an actuary, about both infinite banking and velocity banking. And he also is doing both. Thanks so much for your comment, Glenn. Hope you're doing well. Okay, Jane Marie 5450 comments and says, stewardship is 10%. Imagine parishioners IBCing to the church. Thanks for your comment. I agree with you. I agree with you. The infinite banking concept should be utilized by everyone, and it can be utilized by those who have pastoral care. They don't necessarily own all that money. Obviously, it's not their money. It was donated by parishioners. But why would you manage that using a bank account if you can manage it using a much more efficient vehicle and get all your parishioners' money out of the banking system and into a different asset where we have sound banking and we actually have control of our capital? And now not only are we getting much more financial efficiency, but we also take our money out of a system that, let's just say, may not be based on biblical principles, let's say. And there is not only that, there is actually a Catholic fraternal organization, multiple of them, but one in particular that Peter Nelson and I work with that we can do infinite banking with. So again, it's win win win. Why would you not do that? Well, probably because they don't know about it. But I 100% agree with you. It should be done. It should be done by those who have pastoral care and the parishioners themselves. All right. May Julio F8K says, get out of the system. It's turning into a trap. Thanks for your comment. Yep, we're helping people find alternatives. We're helping people find alternatives. Thankfully, there are alternatives. There are good alternatives. If you're talking about the financial system, there are multiple good alternatives. So thanks for your comment. I agree. That's what we try and help people do. In Search of Efficiency says, Logan, I've watched many of your videos and some other IBC content creators as well. And I believe this is the most comprehensive discussion regarding IBC that I've heard. It would be very interesting to hear the interview flipped around to better understand the actuarial point of view. I think you may have also mentioned a potential future video on diving a bit deeper into how the insurance companies manage to earn their profits and maintain dividends over time. That would be super interesting. Anyway, thanks for the great education. More people need to listen to this content and with an open mind, of course. Thanks so much for your comment. I greatly appreciate it. This was again on our discussion with Jack Allwile on the infinite banking concept. I agree with you. It would be really interesting to hear it from the actuarial standpoint. I will say, though, that for my channel, I don't know if that's what the vast majority of people need, right? The vast majority of people just need an introduction to the infinite banking concept. They need to understand the strategy, they need to understand banking. That's a very high level education that the vast majority of people need. So, yeah, you and I would be very interested to talk to an actuary and hear the actuarial side of it, the life insurance side of how they're profiting from this and what they're doing and how the sausage making works. That's true, but I don't think my audience would be super interested in that. So I probably will do a video on it at some point, but it'll be more for my own personal satisfaction and for people like yourself. But I think the vast majority of people, it would be boring to them and it would be details that they don't really need. But I agree, it would be very interesting. Thanks for your comment. Thanks for the compliment. Greatly appreciate it. Okay, so here's another one that illustrates why you should not try and do velocity banking on your own, why you should go through an ambassador. And DeAndre and I had some videos discussing this particular comment, but BBZH1NB comments and says, most banks offer first liens, and you can open a separate aggregate account with the same bank and then set up automatic sweeps into your HELOC. The reason why I went with my own bank versus FSB was because my bank didn't charge me any closing costs versus FSB, who would have charged me over $6,500 to go with them. It may be more manual work, but if you're disciplined, it will work the same way. Thanks for your comment. I appreciate it. Clearly, there's something wrong here. When you say they didn't charge you any closing costs, that means you probably didn't get a first lien HELOC. I've never heard of being able to get a true first lien HELOC without closing costs. So I think you must have done something different. You thought you got a first lien HELOC, but you didn't. But again, there's no free lunch. If they didn't charge you closing costs, they're making money off of you somehow. So they're charging you in some other way. So it's not like you got out of paying closing costs. The bank has certain costs that they have that they incur when they set you up with a first lien HELOC. They must pass those costs on to you one way or another. And then he says FSB would have charged me over $6,500. I've never heard of FSB charging that much money for closing. That is ridiculous. So again, you're probably misunderstanding. Maybe you had to bring $6,500 to closing because maybe you had other debts that needed to be taken care of in order to get your debt to income ratio down low enough to qualify. That's possible, but they're not charging you $6,500 in closing costs. I've never heard of that. So again, something is wrong. right? You're not getting a first lien HELOC without closing costs, and FSB is not going to charge you $6,500. So clearly, there's something wrong with your understanding of what's going on. Or maybe I'm not understanding what you're doing. I don't know. But again, this just illustrates why you should go through an ambassador. We have access to resources that you don't have. We have relationships with lenders. We can help you understand the strategy and implement it properly. If you understand the responsibility that comes with this and the amount of potential financial benefit there is to you, why would you not want to spend some time with an expert to make sure you do it? This isn't the sort of thing you should try and do it yourself, in my opinion. Even though you can in theory do it yourself, I'll grant that certainly. You can in theory do it yourself, but I really don't know why you ever would. Honestly, I don't see the benefits of doing it yourself when you could get someone else's advice. Even if all that other person does, even if you meet with me and I just confirm that, yep, everything you've laid out is exactly 100% correct, and I'm not going to change anything because you've got it all right, there was still a benefit to having somebody else look at it and confirm that, yes, you're doing the right thing in the right way. Okay, and then we had a bit of an exchange. He said BOA, that's Bank of America. So presumably this person is using BOA, Bank of America, allows a 10-year draw, but once you get close to 10-year, you just redo the HELOC again and not costs and reset for another 10 years. Yeah, this is getting into a bit of inside baseball, but it sounds like the HELOC that this person is using has a 10-year draw and a 20-year repayment period, which is fairly typical in that you would refinance it every 10 years so you stay in the draw period. I certainly agree with that strategy. I would say, though, that your cavalier attitude towards what you call redoing it, refinancing it, is a bit problematic because remember, there's no guarantee that you can refinance it. You have to qualify. So when you go to refi the HELOC, you have to go through the credit check again. And there are some costs to doing that. They will minimize them as much as they can. As an example, First Savings Bank will not charge the bank origination fee when you're just refining your existing HELOC, but there are certain costs they have associated with it. So again, you say there's no cost, but there is cost. The bank is incurring costs. What about the appraisal? You've got to get an appraisal done. Someone's got to pay for that. So there is no free lunch. There is no free lunch. You're acting like you're getting out of these costs, but you're not. Someone's paying for them, and the someone is always the customer. So if they allow you to refi at no cost, quote unquote, they're making it some other way. You're not putting one over on Bank of America. Okay. Bank of America is a very profitable organization. They know what they're doing. They're not going to take a loss on this product. So there's no free lunch. There's no free lunch. All right. And then this user responds again. It says, I pay zero in closing costs every time I redo my line with them for a higher limit, and there is no annual fee. They will charge $450, however, if you refi the line with another lender before 3 years. That's the only con us. They don't allow HELOCs on investment properties. So again, what you're saying is Bank of America gave you a free lunch. And if you really believe that, I really cannot help you. I don't know. We're exchanging messages here, but it's clear that I'm not understanding what you're doing. So you did not get a first lien HELOC and pay zero in closing costs. Now, maybe if you gave Bank of America $20 million in assets under management, then maybe they would give you all this stuff for free. That's possible. Typically, it's the wealth management team that has access to the first lien HELOC product and nobody else does. And so it's intended to be for high net worth individuals. And if you are a high net worth individual, then maybe they are giving you the first lien HELOC and all this great benefit for free because they're making so much money off of you on the assets under management side that they're okay offering you this great perk in order to make you a more loyal customer. But you're not getting a free lunch. You're not getting a free lunch. So clearly, there's something you're not understanding, or there's something I'm not understanding about what you're doing, or you thought you got a first lien HELOC, but you're really getting a second position HELOC. But if you're really paying zero across the board, then what you're telling me is Bank of America is giving you all this stuff for free, which obviously we know is not the case. Bank of America is not a charity, they're a profitable organization. So if you want to clarify what's going on, comment again and clarify. Let me know what's actually going on, or even schedule time with me and we can go through your documents. Because if you really are getting this great of a deal, then I would like to learn about it so I can share it with my audience and tell them how they can get a free lunch with Bank of America. So I'd love to hear more about what you're doing and how you're getting this great deal. Thanks so much for your comments, everyone. Keep them coming. Really appreciate it.